All right, then. Thank you very much. I can see your messages. Some of you had fun, some of you didn't. Whichever way, the weekend is over. So no problem. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to know, I want someone to raise up their hand. One person, raise your hand and tell me what you learned from last week's class, Wednesday's class precisely, the very last class we had, which was on Wednesday. So who's raising their hand? Benny Umo, all right, go ahead, please. I'm listening to you.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, first, the most important thing I learned last week that was my design was a miss, and also I had a chance of improving on it, and I think I happened to do that. And secondly, I understood that um, to give out what you want to your audience, it has to be simple. You have to make your work simple for your audience to understand and easily navigate. So that was what I learned last week.
Okay, thank you very much, Benny Umo. I want somebody else to speak, a lady this time around. Raise up your hand and tell me what you learned in the last class. Benny Umo, you can drop your hand down. Hello, what's going on? Where are all the ladies? You want me to start calling your names? Okay, since they are all shy, no problem. Another guy can go ahead and speak. Raise up your hand and let me know what you learned in last week's class. All right, Ray, you can go ahead.
Okay, last week class,
Okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
I someone talking. Last week class, I learned um, of how we can actually make our work um acceptable. I had critics on my work and learned that I should start first by replicating what my instructor is doing in class, and I can actually be able to understand first the basis of what I've been shown in class before I can further replicate that, then add the creativity part. Like before creativity, we should try being original first. But I learned.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's very wonderful. And then I want somebody else to. So, if you guys remember clearly, we've actually been having so many classes. It's very easy to mix up things. So remember that we're still talking about the design process. So today we're going to be looking at the ideate stage, the ideate phase of the design process. And I want somebody to tell me the phases that we've treated so far. This is stage three. The ideate stage is the stage three. So I want someone to tell me the previous stages that we've handled so far. You can raise up your hand and speak. Ray, are you going again? Okay, Tiben, you can go ahead. Patience, still leave your hand up. I have another question for you. So Tiben, go ahead.
Okay, about the good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Um, the last two classes we had, we spoke about um empathy and the design stage. Those were the two stages that we spoke about.
Say that again.
The empathy stage and the define stage.
Okay, empathy stage and the define stage. Thank you very much. So Patience, can you tell me the remaining stages that are left? Remember, we have 5 stages: empathy, define, and then we're looking at ideate today. So what are the remaining stages left? I'm listening to you, Patience.
Prototype and eh,
Okay, Tiben, you're answering for her already. Go ahead.
sorry, I forgot that my mic was on.
Don't
Prototype
worry, just
and
go ahead. Prototype and
test.
all right then. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So I just want to make sure that our minds are still where it should be in regards to the whole design thinking process. So we're currently in the middle stage, that's stage 3. So we've done 2 and we have 3 to go. By the end of today, we'll have 2 to go. So since we're in the middle phase, let's do a little bit of recap. Remember that the design thinking process, it is a process. It's not just a thing, it's a process. And you understand that the purpose of a process, who can tell me what the purpose of a process is? When you say you have a process to do something, maybe you have a process that you use every morning when you wake up to prepare for your day, you have a particular process, or you have a process to read or prepare for examinations, whatever the case may be. Can someone just tell me, raise up your hand and let me know, or drop it in the chat box? What is the purpose of a process? When you say you have a process to do something, what exactly is the point of having a process? So Tiben said to achieve a goal. All right, thank you. I'm waiting for more answers. I'm waiting for more answers. Khalid says a method to make things easier and faster. Awesome. That's just wonderful. Yes, so you are both very correct. So the whole essence of having a process is to make things easier and to be organized, like Shibawali says, perfect, and to be consistent also, and to make sure that you are getting things done in the right manner. You are doing the right thing in the right way. That's the whole essence of a process. So when you have a process, the process is not just there for you to have. You're having a process in order to meet a final goal, in order to meet a final target. It might be an effect or a result, whatever the case may be. So in the case of our design thinking process, since it's a process, and like the word says, design thinking process, it's a process for design. It's a process for design thinking. So the end goal or the result of this whole process is to have a digital product. It's for us to have a digital product. So I'm saying all this again so that because we're starting to get into the more technical um, parts of the whole design thinking process. So it's just like a refresher course for you to understand and remember what we've done so far. So the very first stage of the process is the empathize stage, where you learned how to put yourself in the shoe of the users. And the users are people whom we are creating a particular digital product for. The digital product might be a website, it might be a web app, it might be a mobile app, whatever the case may be. So those are the users. So the very first stage, we're putting ourselves in the shoe of these users. Right after, and by doing that, we're conducting user research. We're doing research to understand their feelings and their pain points. Right after that, we go on to the define stage, whereby we analyze the findings from our research. We define the problem, where you learned how to generate a problem statement. So all of this is like a chain of events. One process leads to the other. One process informs the other. And just like Favor explained, the whole design thinking process is an iterative process. It's not linear. It can be a cycle. You can go from, at a point, if the need be, you can go from stage 3 back to stage 1. Sometimes you may even have to skip stages depending on the kind of project you're working on. Factors like time constraints or budget constraints might force you to skip some particular stages. But the ideal way to go about all this is to follow these stages step by step, from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. And then once you're getting feedback from each stage, it helps you understand um, what to do next. So after the define stage, which is stage 2, you have the ideate stage, which is where we are today, which is what we're treating. Um, the ideate stage is where you ideate. What it means to ideate is to the noun for that is idea. So the verb form is ideate, meaning to generate ideas, simply put. So based on remember the previous stage was the define stage. You defined the problem. Now that you know what the user pain points are, you want to generate ideas. You want to develop ideas to solve these pain points. That is the whole essence of the ideate stage. So right after generating ideas, like um, T-Ben said, right after that, you go on to prototype. So prototyping is where you do all the Figma magic. You go ahead and start designing different types of designs. It might be a wireframe, low fidelity, sketches, or high fidelity. We'll get to that soon. But that is where you actually go on Figma and start creating how that website looks. That is the part where user interface comes in. So all these previous parts have to do with the user experience. You are trying to the ideate stage, the define stage, the empathize stage, they are more involved with the user experience. But then the UI, which is the user interface, how the app looks. I know that you all remember the difference between UI and UX because we did that at the very in the very first class and very first task. So the stage after the define stage is the prototyping stage where you actually put all your ideas together and make them visual, like designing these things on Figma or Adobe XD or whatever tool. But in this bootcamp, we're going to be making use of Figma, like you already know. So right after the prototype stage, then you now have the last stage, which is the test stage. So the testing stage, you're testing your idea, you're testing your prototype to make sure that it's actually meeting the demands of the user, because you don't just want to design something and leave it out there. The essence of all of this is to make sure that we are actually solving user problems. We're actually meeting the need of these users. We want to make sure that whatever it is that we're designing is actually effective and solving not just user problems, but business problems too. Because whatever app, whatever website it is that you might be designing, the whole essence of it, the number one priority, if we're being realistic, is to make profits. So you only make profit by meeting user needs. When users feel like, okay, as I'm using this particular app, for instance, as I'm using the Bolt app, it's helping me get to my destination. I don't have to use public transport. So because of that, I keep using it. Thereby, user needs are being met, and then the business goes out. The business is also making profit. So all of these work hand in hand. They work together for a common goal. So now that we remember the whole what's it called? The whole stages of the design process. And then another thing you should also note, as I said just now, is that this is not a linear process. You can start at stage. There are times where you might have to skip some stages, but more about that much later on. But for now, you have to understand, we're teaching you how each stage is related to the other. So at every stage, it's always great for you to get feedback from your user. From stage 1, when you do your research, it's always best to get feedback. You know that what you are doing is on point. You are actually going in the right direction from the user and from the stakeholders. Stakeholders in this case might be your clients or your boss, whoever it is that you are designing that product for. So after the research, you would like to show them that, okay, this is what I discovered from my research about this particular app that we're trying to build. Right after that, you have the define stage, you identify user problems and then come up with ideas in stage 3, the ideate stage. Come up with ideas in order to solve these problems that you've identified. And then from there, you create prototypes. So at the end of the prototype stage, you also go back and give feedback, communicate your findings and all to your clients, just in case they might have changes or recommendations, because doing this helps you save time. So that is pretty much how the whole design process works. So for some of you that might have been confused before or didn't fully grasp the concept, I hope that's clearer now. So back to today's class, we're still on stage 3, which is the ideate stage. So things you'll be learning in today's class are brainstorming, impact and prioritization technique, idea, prioritization practice, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So can you guys still hear me? Please confirm in the chat box that you can hear me. Maybe sure I've not been talking to myself for all this time. All right, then. Thank you, Samuel, Richie. Thank you very much. So in the ideate stage, as I said earlier, it is the third phase. I like to call it stage, but it still means the same thing, of the design thinking process. And as the name suggests, it's all about generating ideas and solutions. So this particular stage is a creative process. This is the point whereby your creativity actually springs up. You want to see your creative juices flow. You have to bring out all the creativity you have in you. And as a designer, you generate ideas in sessions. So I remember some time ago, Favor actually mentioned to you guys that as a designer, you are a solution provider. You're actually providing solutions. And that might just sound like a cliche, but what it actually means is when you look at things from a general point of view, from a wider perspective, you look at the different tracks involved in creating a product. Let's say, for instance, we want to create a um, a food delivery app, for instance. Now, it's not just one person that is going to do it. It's a multidisciplinary work. One person cannot just come up and say, "Well, you have a few people who can do that," but ideally, you work in a team, and that team usually consists of you guys, which are the UI UX designers. It has project managers. It has front end engineers or developers, you have backend engineers, you have DevOps engineers, and so many other things. You have content writers. Sometimes you might even need graphic designers. You might need 3D designers or Illustrator designers, and those other things. Everybody works hand in hand to have a final product. That product that you see, that WhatsApp that you're using, it wasn't just one person that did it. It was several different people that came together to make it functional. So in this chain of events where you have different types of professionals coming hand in hand to make a particular app, your role in it is to bring it to is to generate the idea, whatever idea it is that that app is going to run by, and the foundation of the app. That is your own job. The WhatsApp you're looking at, it was somebody that sat down and generated ideas to help solve user problems. You will notice that WhatsApp did not start by having WhatsApp stories. There was a time that WhatsApp didn't have stories. It was someone that sat down, or rather a team that sat down and brainstormed, generated ideas to understand how can we make this app better? How can we put ourselves at the forefront of our competitors, like Telegram and the rest of them? So people actually sat down to generate ideas. And the people that sit down to do these things are majorly UI UX designers, which are you guys. So when we say you are a solution provider, we're speaking in contrast to other tracks. For instance, now the front-end developer, right after you finish your designs, you have to understand that whatever you are designing on Figma is not functional yet, because it's just a Figma design. It's just a flyer on your phone. It's when you hand off your design. We're going to get to that stage where you teach you about design handoff. You hand off your design to the front-end developer. So the front-end developer is the one who is going to actually use programming languages and coding to bring that design to life, so that when you click on a form and click submit, or for instance, the LMS, for instance, when you input the link to your task and click submit, it's what the developers do that would help me as a trainer to see your submission on my own app or on my own part of the website. So basically what the rest of them are doing is different from what you are doing. And this would help you appreciate what you do better as a UI UX designer, because you are actually a problem solver. You are generating ideas. It's quite different from so many other tracks involved in the whole product generation process. You are the one, it is the ideas you come up with that will map out how the final app is going to look like. The way Instagram looks like right now, that has the Reels feature. It was a designer who sat down and said, let us have a feature whereby we can have Instagram Reels where people can scroll and see all manners of video content. It was someone that sat down and thought about it and went ahead to design it and then handed that design over to the developer who built it and brought it to life. So basically, you are the architect. You as the UI UX designer, you are the architect, and the developers are the ones that are in charge of the construction. They are the ones that are going to take the cement and the blocks and build up the building. Your own job is to map it all out and show them what it's going to look like. So it's everything that you show them that they are going to follow to the letter. So it shows you how important what you do is, because it's actually you. It might sound kind of impartial, but come on, you are UX designers here. It's actually you. You are the center of it all. When it comes to your product, you are the one who is sitting at the center of it. You are like the boss. So you can just sit down there, cross your legs, and say, "No, I want it to be this way. This is how I want it to be." But of course, whatever stakeholders are involved, whatever client, the client always has the upper say. But you, as a UI UX designer, you are the professional. You advise and you advise according to how you want things to be, how you want things to look like. So you actually have a whole lot of power in your hands. You're not just moving graphics, you're not just painting anything. Whatever you're doing, you are the center of the whole process of this whole app development or whatever it is, that if it's a website or whatever. So it helps you understand better what exactly it is that you are doing as a UI UX designer. So all this rambling and rambling, it all boils down to this ideate stage. It is at this ideate stage that you can flex that power to the maximum. It is at this stage that you start thinking of ideas, because in the previous stages, you've done user research, you understand your user now, you understand what your users want, and then you've defined the problem. You have your pain points listed, just like we did in the very last class, using the empathy map. We listed out our pain points and put them into different categories. So right after that, now we're going to drag out those pain points and what's it called? Use it to generate ideas. Think about ideas that is going to influence the particular product, the app or website, whatever it may be that you're trying to build. So there are several steps to go through in this ideation stage, and we're going to look at that now. We have the very first step is to plan ahead. So right after that, you generate ideas, and after generating ideas, you prioritize ideas. So before we head into these ideation steps, do you guys have any question? Is there anything you're unclear about all I've said so far? Please just raise up your hand. Raise your hand and let me help you out. Balogun Kehinde, please go ahead.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I want to ask, in this ideate stage, is it only the UI UX designer guys that come together to bring idea, or they can also do that with the front-end engineer and other members of the team?
All right then. Thank you for that. That's a wonderful question. Thank you. So primarily, yes, it's your job primarily as the UI UX designer. As I said, you are a solution provider. That word has been so abused and so used that people tend to forget what it actually means. You are the one that is providing ideas for this problem. So primarily, yes, it is your, especially as a UX designer, because some people you can be a UX designer and not be a UI designer. You might be a UI designer and not be a UX designer. But for the UX part, generating ideas is primarily your goal. So you might have a case whereby a developer might want to actually be involved in the idea generation phase. That's very much welcome, because in this, we're going to see shortly about how in this particular stage, you have to prioritize quantity over quality, because you want as many ideas as possible, and the flow is open to any part of the team. You can have developers come in, and majority of the time, you usually have project managers there too, because project managers are the managers of the project. They are the ones. Thank you. Tolu is saying that project managers also do that. So there are always different ways that you work. Some companies have these different professionals work in isolation, but it's always best for everybody to come together, have one um, ideation session whereby the project manager is there, the UI UX designer is there. Those are the two most important people in this stage. And in some cases, you might want the clients might be there, developers might be there too. But primarily, you come first. After you comes the project managers in this particular stage. So have I been able to answer your question, Kendi?
Yes, thank you.
All right then. So no other question, I believe. So moving on to the ideation steps. The very first step we have is plan ahead. So in this particular step, you want to introduce a change of scenery, as this can help stimulate out of the box ideas, create a relaxed environment, and prepare the tools needed. I'll speak about that shortly. And then if working in a team, identify team members who take part. Make sure team members feel at ease through the entire session. So basically, this is just like a preamble. You are setting the right environment, because the essence of making team members feel at ease is so that they can share ideas willingly, crazy ideas, no matter how crazy it may be, without any form of restraints. Because even in this class, you can already see I'm saying, oh yeah, unmute your mic, talk, let me hear you. Guys, talk, let me hear you. Ladies, talk, let me hear you. The ladies are shy. They don't want to talk. It's understandable because this is a new environment. You're not used to it and all. But that particular problem is usually a hindering factor when it comes to this particular stage, the ideation stage. When having whatever, because there are different ways to ideate. You have brainstorming sessions, you have just like I remember Favor mentioned about body storming and all. So there are several ways you can use to ideate, but the most common way is brainstorming. So during your brainstorming session, you know what brainstorming is? It's just people coming together to generate ideas. During your brainstorming session, you want the environment to be as cool, as calm, as relaxing as possible, because that is the environment whereby it's easier for ideas to flow in such an environment. Imagine a small room, a small and crowded room that is located just beside Oshodi bus stop, for instance, for those that are in Lagos, or whatever very, very busy streets or very noisy traffic area. And then people are always walking by, people are having phone conversations, and the whole thing is just echoing in the background. So many distractions. Of course, you will know that this kind of noisy environment will make it difficult for the participants of that brainstorming session to concentrate, because at every instance, one thing or the other is going on, it's distracting you. And in such distractions, you know how ideas come and just disappear immediately. That is why it's always important to document it, to write down your ideas. We'll get to that probably in the next slide. But when ideas come like that, they leave as fast as they come if you don't write them down. So we're trying to reduce distractions. That is the whole essence of making teammates feel at ease, making sure that the scenery is a relaxed environment. So all those distractions can really, really disrupt the flow of thinking and prevent a very, very deep exploration of ideas. So another thing mentioned here are to prepare the tools needed in this second bullet point. So we also need visual aids or tools, like I said, to document, because when you don't have access to tools like whiteboards, markers, sticky notes, remember we used sticky notes in the very last class. Favor showed you guys how to use Miro to what's it called? To arrange all those notes that you generated from your user research. So all of these, because you might be wondering, what is the whole essence of Miro? Why are you using such whiteboarding tools? It's mainly for collaboration and remote work. Because as you know, if you're in tech jobs usually are remote. Majority of them
80 to 85% of them are remote. So if you were in an actual work environment, you would notice that all these Facebook and Meta and Netflix, all these offices, you would see, besides how fine and relaxing the environment is, you will notice that one consistent thing that they have, and it doesn't even have to be a tech company, one consistent thing that they have are boards, whiteboards. Unlike, well, in this part of the world, we are used to blackboard. In secondary school, we used blackboard. Those of you that went to Tush secondary schools, of course, you used whiteboards and markers. But those of us that went to public secondary schools, it was whiteboard, blackboard and chalk that we used. But everything is shy board. Board is something you can write on, be it black or white or red, wherever you're from. It's a board, you can write on it. So in these offices, you will notice that they have whiteboards. And some of you in your offices is something that you have because it's one of the it's a tool that you use when having all these brainstorming sessions. So the essence of that board is while you're having these meetings, write something to write down the points that you're taking or the ideas that you're generating so that it can be out there for the whole team to see. So that is how those boards are used physically. But in the place of remote work, you are not gathered physically, you are gathered remotely. It's online. The Miro is a whiteboard tool. It's an online whiteboard tool. That's the whole essence of Miro. So you will notice that what I write, if I add, for instance, Kehinde and Tiben and Ray to a particular Miro board, we can all easily collaborate on that board. I can see what Tiben is doing. I can see what Ray is doing. And we are collaborating in real time as compared to if maybe after Tiben does something, it might take me like 10 to 15 minutes before it reflects on my own side. No, because that definitely slows down the flow of work. But as Tiben is writing something, I'm seeing it on my own end. And that's how all of these tools work, including Figma. As you're designing something, I'm seeing it in real time, well, except for maybe delay in network, if network might be slow. Or for those that don't have network issues, if network is fine, you're seeing it in real time. So that is the whole essence of these tools, because I'm still talking about the second bullet point that talks about creating a relaxed environment and preparing the tools that you need. So yeah, I just spoke about Miro. So these tools they are very, very important for capturing and visualizing ideas, making connections and organizing thoughts. Because if you have everything up there in your head, you get lost easily. And by the end of the meeting, you would have forgotten and completely omitted some of the points that you generated in that meeting. And then if that happens, it makes the whole essence of the meeting futile. It makes it useless because you didn't come out with actual insights from the meeting, but you write them down using these whiteboard tools like Miro. So it just helps to organize thoughts. And without all these things, of course, participants would struggle to effectively communicate the ideas that they have. So that's the whole essence of planning ahead. It sets you in the right environment, both physically and mentally, to generate ideas. So right after planning ahead, we have actually generating ideas. So what we have here, brainstorming for ideas is one of the oldest tricks in the toolbox because it creates an atmosphere to allow ideas flow freely and bounce off other ideas. Pick one point at a time. Come up with how might we questions in order to see room for solutions and launch a good brainstorm session. So this is so much in one. And so from what we've done before, we've interviewed our users. Remember, we've already done that. We've interviewed our users and understood their problems, and we've identified their pain points. So in this particular stage, this generation of ideas, it's time for us to actually generate ideas on how we might solve those problems, how we might eliminate those pain points. Because the whole essence of the research, the whole essence of the empathize phase is for us to identify user pain points and user needs. You already understand this. So while identifying them so that we can solve those pain points and meet those user needs. If a user says, I want my cat to be able to fly, that is a user a user's need. So if the user is actually going to use your product, okay, let me use a more practical example now. Tesla cars. A user might come up and say, I don't want my car to run on gasoline or to run on petrol. I want my car to be electronic. I want to be able to plug my car into sockets, just like I plug my phone, and charge and use it for for 6 to 7 miles, and then or 6 to 7 hours before it runs down, and then I have to charge it again, that kind of thing. That's an actual user need. So you as the UX designer, your job is to actually meet that user's need. And the way you can meet it is, of course, by generating ideas, by brainstorming. You start to think, okay, how can we actually build cars that run on electricity and not on petrol? How can we actually build products that meet this user needs? How can we think of features? How can we add features to an existing product to help serve our users better? Because as I said earlier, all of these things, the whole design process is user-centric. It's centered around the user. Just as the way the development process and all is centered around you, the designer, all you are doing is centered around the user, because the user is the focal point for all this. So you're trying to meet user needs and trying to solve user pain points. User pain points simply means user frustrations, user challenges, what issues are they facing. So a good place to start all of this, as I said earlier, is brainstorming. You have brainstorming ideas, and I already explained what brainstorming means. You're just sitting down, coming together, and generating ideas. So one of the ways that we can brainstorm is to have what we call how might we questions. So how these how might we questions work is that, as I said, you pick one pain point at a time, and then you ask, how might we do this? So let me go to the mirror board we used for the very last class. Can you guys still see my screen? Can you see the mirror board? Please confirm.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. So this was the empathy map that we generated in the very last class. So let me look for a particular pain point here. And let's go to do. Oh, yeah, somewhere here. Okay, so this is a user need, or user need of pain point. This is a particular user need. So who is this person? Participant one. Let's call participant one. Who do we have here? Annie. Let's say participant one is Annie. So one of Annie's need is to pay her bills on time. So you use, when brainstorming, you all sit down together, maybe remote, maybe in an office, you sit down together and pick these pain points one by one. Remember that we also spoke about organized notes, where you organize all the notes that you got out from your user research. When interviewing your user, you put them all here. And of course, they're going to be way more than this. You put them all here and start picking them one by one. So the very first one, you all sit down and say, pain point number one, which belongs to Annie. How can we help Annie pay her bills on time? So that's how the how might we question works. You pick each pain point and use the how might we approach to tackle those pain points or those user needs. How might we do this? How might we build cars that run on electricity instead of raw? How might we make the whole process of food delivery faster? So all of those questions would be dependent on the pain points that you have. Let's look for another pain point. Okay, this is another user need. Needs to pay. Oh, this is the same one. Okay, so yes, this is a pain point. Frustrated when the app's navigation is unclear. So in order to help you generate ideas to solve this frustration, to solve this problem, you ask questions like, how might we help improve the app's navigation? Or how might we clarify the navigation of the app? So those kind of questions will help you break down the whole brainstorming session. It helps you answer questions. It helps you generate ideas quicker. So that's how the how my way approach works. So right after that, we have build on each other's ideas if working in a team. Encourage wild ideas. Wild ideas. Do not be limited to digital ideas. So as I said before, you want to generate crazy ideas, very crazy ideas. That's one of the amazing things about the Ideate Stage, the brainstorming session. Any and every idea is welcome, no matter how crazy it is. Any idea at all is welcome. That's why you want as many people to be in such sessions, and you are open to as many questions as possible, as many ideas as possible, rather. And one thing you need to note is you shouldn't be judgmental. People might ask crazy ideas, and people might ask obvious questions, and it might make people feel feel foolish or feel unneeded, feel unwanted in the team. So it's very important that you're not judgmental to the questions people ask, because the truth about it is that a whole lot of wonderful and amazing ideas have come from stupid questions. Let me look for an example. So in the common app, let me use WhatsApp. Everybody, or let me even use your phone app. The primary purpose of having a phone is to make calls. You get a phone to make calls. The primary purpose. Secondary purposes are browsing the internet and all of that. But a phone that doesn't make call is not a phone. That's a tablet. Tablets, you can surf the internet, but you can't make calls. So the primary purpose of having a phone is to actually make calls. So back then, of course, people sat down and thought. We all remember the kind of phones we used to use back then, from GSMs to landlines and all those very heavy phones. But somebody actually sat down and thought, how can I make communication easier? Today, it might look like a very stupid question, because for crying out loud, you have phones. But back then, for those of you that remember, um, communication was through letter. Communication was actually through letters and all. I remember, let me give a very, very short story. Sorry, I'm digressing. But I remember when I was born, my dad kept telling me about the story of when I was born, about how when he gave birth to me, of course, there were no phones back then. Don't worry, I'm not that old. But there were no phones back then. So communication was an issue. And then of course, he had to tell his family members that, okay, oh, we have a boy now in the family, or that kind of thing. So I remember vividly how he explained to me how a particular one of my uncles, he did not find out that I was born till like 2 to 3 months after, because he came out after traveling. You know how even back then transportation was even an issue. But after riding bicycle from one place to the other, I repeat again, I'm not that old. So he finally came and saw me. I was like, maybe my is this my dad's neighbor's child or something? So like, this is my son now, some months old and all, and he didn't know. That's because communication back then was terrible. You didn't have phones, you didn't have landlines, you didn't have all those things to just call. The way people communicated then was to send letters. But technology helped and made that easier. You have your phone now, you can just pick it up and call, and you can do so much more with your phone. So right now, asking that kind of question, that how can we help make communication easier, it might look like a foolish question. So in a brainstorming session back then, somebody might have brought up an idea to say, why don't we have a what can I even say, what kind of word would they have used back then? Why don't we have a machine that I pick up now and use it to call somebody else in another part of not even another part of the world, in another part of the town or something. And then the person is able to hear what I'm saying from where I am. So back then, people must have thought like, wow, that looks like an amazing idea. How do we even go about it? How do we start? What are the steps we take to even do this? But the idea started somewhere, and people kept building on the idea. People kept thinking, okay, how about we use wire? We we run wires through the walls of one building to the other. So that was how you're able to have local networks and all of that to make calls using landlines and all those things. You will notice that they still use these kind of things in hotels and restaurants. So that's how people kept building on ideas, kept building on ideas. See how people used to remember those telephones that you would press that had like 8 holes, or was it 9 holes that you press one, I don't know what it's called now. You press one ring and then rotate it, press another ring and rotate it. A whole lot of you will know these things. But look at where we are now. You have smartphones, you have wonderful gadgets. Some people can even buy a phone and not use it to make calls. They use it to do so many other things. Use your phone as cinema, use your phone as as a studio and so many other things. You roll it to dial. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So people ideas, you generate ideas and build on these ideas, because one thing you have to understand as a UI UX designer is that um, there is always room for improvement. You don't get satisfied. You might meet your user needs, but user needs and user frustrations are prone to change, because that's how human beings are. Human beings change. They change by day, they change by weather, they change by season, they change by anything, by body hormones, anything at all can make people change. And of course, with technology, the way technology is advancing, user needs will also change. So you have to understand that there's always room for improvement to generate new and more creative ideas. So learn to build. All this I'm saying is so you understand that you can build on each other's ideas. Welcome any and every idea, because no idea is too stupid. No idea is too unreasonable. So when generating ideas, you aim for quantity over quality and avoid negative or judgmental comments. So I've already explained all this. Let's not waste time on this. Focus on quantity. You want to have as many ideas as possible as compared to as you're focusing more, you're focusing less on solid ideas and focusing more as so many, and you want to have so many um, ideas. So quantity over quality. So we're still talking about, remember we're discussing the steps in idea generation, in ideation. Idea generate, that's actually how the word was got. Idea generation, ideation. So plan ahead, we've discussed that, generate ideas, which we're still on. And yeah, so this is what I was referring to earlier when I was talking about um organizing those notes. You have those notes listed out, and then you pick them one by one, the pinpoints rather, you pick them one by one. So in this particular picture, you can see that pinpoints here, the pinpoints here, you have which one can I pick? You have late delivery. You have late delivery. That's the particular pinpoint. Excuse me. So we are generating ideas on how to solve that particular problem, which is late delivery. So for example, as you can see here, you can have sticky notes that would say show delivery status. That's a particular feature to help to solve that particular problem. It will help users know where exactly their order is. So to give you context, this is talking about a food delivery app. So if a particular user's problem is late delivery, the user is talking about how he gets his food late. So in order to give that user feedback, you can have a feature on that food delivery app that shows the delivery status of the food, so that the user is kept updated on the status of his food. Where is my food right now? How many minutes away is it? And all those kind of things. And you know that is how majority of all these apps work. Look at Uber, for instance. You can see where your driver is at the moment. If he hasn't gotten to your house, you can see how many kilometers away he is. You can see if he's currently on another trip, and you can see how many minutes it take him to get to where you are. Also, it will notify you, the Uber or Bolt or InDriver, whatever app it will notify you of when your driver has actually gotten to your house. So show delivery status. Let users always know the status of things. This for instance now is an ideation step for such an app. So moving on, we have prioritize ideas. Now that you've generated ideas, remember that we said that we want as many ideas as possible. There's never a limit. But of course, not all these ideas will be usable. not all these ideas will be functional. Not all these ideas would meet user needs. Not all of them would help the would bring profits to the business or help increase revenue for your clients. So you now want to prioritize ideas. And then in prioritizing ideas, we have this particular diagram, which we call a prioritization grid. It's called a prioritization grid. Some people also call it a priority grid or a priority matrix or a prioritization matrix. So it's just helping you prioritize ideas in different ways. So we'll look into it shortly, how to actually make use of this particular grid. But there are actually various techniques to prioritize all of this. This is not the only way. There are several other methods, but this is the most used. That is why we're teaching it in this particular class. So with this prioritization grid, we can evaluate what impacts our ideas, the solutions that we came up with, the ideas, what impact would they have on a user? And then we also look at how complex or feasible this particular product, this particular feature rather, might be. And then we also check if we have the necessary resources and time and all of that to implement the idea. So all these things are very important. We want to go for feasible ideas, and this is just like a filter to identify the feasible ideas and the non-feasible ideas. So just like we did in our empathy mapping, remember how the empathy map looks like. In the empathy map, it's like a quadrant. You have your horizontal line, you have a vertical line, and you have the left upper quadrant, right upper quadrant, left lower quadrant, right lower quadrant. Left upper is say, right upper is do. Left lower is think, right lower is feel. So it's a quadrant. This is also a grid where you organize different, what's it called now? Different ideas into. But what the empathy map does is that you are organizing ideas, you are organizing pain points rather. For the empathy mapping, you are organizing pain points and user needs based on the user's feelings and emotions, because it's called an empathy map. Remember what the word empathy means. You're organizing them based on what the user feels, says, thinks, or does. But for prioritization grid, it is based on priority of the features. So let me calm down and explain one more time. The empathy mapping, you are using the user needs and pain points to organize. You're organizing the user needs and pain points into these different quadrants: say, do, think, and feel. But when you now start going into the prioritization grid, the user pain points, you've already generated ideas. So while generating ideas, remember, just like we did earlier, okay, maybe I should write that out so it would help you understand better. Which ideas did we pick earlier? Okay, this one. So I just duplicated this particular sticker notes. And the way I did that was I just pressed, while clicking on this, I pressed down on Alt and dragged it, and it duplicated it. So another thing I can do is to click on Ctrl C and then click on Ctrl V to paste, or just click on Ctrl D to duplicate. So those are quick shortcuts to help you work faster on all these tools. You can see them here. Ctrl D to duplicate, Ctrl C to copy. So I prefer Ctrl D because it's easier. It's just one step. I just click on it and press Ctrl D. Instead of having to click on it, press Ctrl C and then go somewhere else, press Ctrl V. So it's faster that way. So I can undo all these things I've done by pressing Ctrl Z. Everybody knows Ctrl Z. That's used everywhere. Ctrl Z to undo and Ctrl Shift Z to redo. So Ctrl Z undoes, Ctrl Shift Z redoes. I hope that grammar is correct. So I'm just delete all this back again. I need just one, and then yes, control to redo. Some apps make use of Control Y, just like Sajid said. But for majority of the tools you're going to be using, majority of your design tools, it's actually Control Shift Z. You will see that Figma too, it's the same thing. You use Ctrl Z to undo and Ctrl Shift Z to redo. So there was another pinpoint that I found here. Okay, this one. So holding on Alt and dragging, it also duplicates. That's an easier way to do that too. So these are two pinpoints I picked in order to generate ideas. And from these pinpoints, you generate ideas. Just like we said earlier, this particular pinpoint is talking about a user that is frustrated when the app's navigation is unclear. So we said that an idea, let me even ask that out and stop generating for you guys. So I want you guys to speak up. This first pinpoint, give me ideas, generate ideas. You can raise up your hand to talk or drop them in the chat box. Generate ideas to solve this frustration. Go ahead and raise your hands or drop them in the chat box. I'm listening to you. Hello, can you guys still hear me? Okay, Ben Umo says start app. Let's write that down. Restart app. Use of icon. Ben says use of icon. You need to be that your use of icon is quite ambiguous too. It's a little bit vague. But let's write it down. Use of icon. Okay, who else? Who else? Creating pain points showing what part of the process they are on. I don't quite get that. Please explain further. Benuma says reports. These things you're saying are quite ambiguous. You have to make your remember you're generating ideas. So say those ideas in the way that whoever is seeing it will understand. Make the nav bar more clearer. Make the nav bar clearer by using a more effective color for it. Fantastic. I like that one. Go to frequently asked. Okay. Highlight what each icon does. Okay, these are wonderful ideas. Let me copy a few. So give me ideas for the second one. This pinpoints. I need ideas for that one. So that's enough for the first one. So give me for the second one too. Still waiting for more ideas for the second pinpoint. King Joshua says, what is this feature? Look for better app. No, that's not an option. Look for better app. Babatunde, you're saying look for better app. It's like you're chasing your users away. If you're trying to solve the problem of your user and you're saying that the solution is to look for solution elsewhere, that's not a solution. You are just chasing away markets. And if you're into freelancing, you understand, because all this we're talking about now is more for if you're working under a company. So you will not really, some people might not really care rather, which is not a good thing. But if you're working as a freelancer, imagine someone comes to you and say, Babatunde, help me design this app. Or rather, Babatunde, I have this issue. I want my business to go online. How can you help me? And then your solution is look for a better designer or look for another designer. Of course, you'll be hungry for the rest of the month. So highlight what each icon does. Help option that breaks down how to navigate better. Okay, I like that idea, but that's too complex for this particular class. Make easy to navigate and okay, I think we've had enough for the first one. Let's look for the other one. So the other one needs to pay bills on time, but the process is confusing. Let's have ideas for that. Make the process clearer by putting an icon of pay bills at the first page. God bless you. Yinka, I believe that's your Yinka Bishop. This is a straight to the point process. Just like I said earlier, sometimes the solution to a user's problem might be the very obvious solution. It may be very obvious. So always look for, as a UI UX designer, Favor has told you, look for simplicity. First, try and do things, try and meet users' needs in a simple way before trying to even look at something more complex. In fact, don't even look at anything complex. Use simple methods to solve problems. So if you are saying that the user is unable to pay bills on time because the process is confusing, obviously the opposite of that is make the process clearer. How? By putting an icon of paying bills at the first page. I really like this answer. So this actually just brought to mind some of the things that you guys did in your very first task. The the very first task where we spoke about UI versus bad UI versus good UI and then impact and recommendation. So what some of you did was that you said, for instance, now just like what Hinka said here, make the process clear. That might be a recommendation for a bad app. Make the process clear. Some of you just stopped there. Well, the recommendation is not just what to do, but how to do it, because you are the one that is actually going to do it. You are the UI UX designer. The more you understand this, the easier it becomes for you. You are the one. All this app you are seeing, even this Zoom we're using right now, it was a UI UX designer that designed the UI UX designer just like you who designed it. So don't just stop at the what to do. Stop. Also go ahead and tell us how you're going to do it, which is one of the reasons why I really like this answer. Make the process clearer by putting an icon of pay bills at the first page, like a button to say pay bills, that kind of thing. I know that's what you're trying to say. Someone else says creating clear and direct user flow for payments. Yeah. Yeah, that's similar to what Minka said. But then Ayokumi, how do you create a clear and direct user flow for payments? Patient says create a more simpler step. How do you do that? You're saying what to do, but you're not saying how to do it. Write a concept about the app or help icon. Reduction of the processes for payments. Okay, yeah, that can be embodied into the very first one. The make process clearer by putting icons. Simpler and clear action button. I believe that's what you mean, Rachel. Have a step-by-step guide on how to troubleshoot when the app is slow. Okay, I'll copy that for a particular reason. Thank you, Priska. Have a step-by-step guide. So add a view. Okay, this is getting so much. Introduce a chatbot. Wonderful. I'll copy that in there. Fantastic idea. Since we are in the age and era of AI, then why not introduce a chatbot? Create a search function. Make the pay bill button. Okay, I think we have enough. All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much. These are fantastic ideas. So this is pretty much how a brainstorming session works. We bring out a particular pain point and ask the participants of that brainstorming session to generate ideas, give us ideas and all of that. So now that we have our ideas listed out, remember, these two are our pain points and user needs. And then what we have here are the ideas. So they are color coded. So the pink guys are ideas for this pink, this very first pain points. And then the purple ideas are solving the purple user need or pain points. So remember, we're talking about prioritizing ideas using a prioritization grid. So in order to go about that, can you guys still hear me? I want someone to unmute and tell me if you can still hear me. I want to hear your voice.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, then. Okay, thank you. That's relieving. All right, then. Thanks. So, so we want to generate a prioritization grid. So in order to do that, let me just copy what we have here. We need 2 lines also. So I used Alt and drag there to copy this line. And then the prioritization grid can actually come in different ways. You can see that the one that we have here it looks like this. Okay, let me do another one. So the one that we have there in that diagram looks like this, just like a graph, your y-axis and your x-axis. And then you have this one that looks like your empathy map. Let me give them two different colors so you can visualize easily. Yeah, okay, that yellow is a little bit, it has 4 contrasts. What should I use? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. So blue, this particular um um grid, there are different ways to have your diagram. This particular one here, the blue one, looks more like this one, y-axis, x-axis. You can also do it this way, but let's do it this way for the purpose of this class. The purpose of this class. So another thing you will notice is that, okay, actually, we're going to need the two. So let me bring that guy back. We'll need this one also. So this is pretty much what we have here. It looks more like a grid now. You have your y-axis, which is the vertical axis. You have your x-axis, which is the horizontal axis. And then you now have 4 squares inside, all divided by these 2 horizontal and vertical lines. So we have 4 squares now. The top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. So what we're going to do now is to prioritize these ideas. So from the prioritization grid, you can see that each square or each quadrant has a name, has a title. You have high impact, low effort. You have high impact, high effort, low impact, low effort, low impact, high effort. So let me explain how the prioritization grid works. So I'm going to label this impact. Yeah. So the y-axis is impact. So let's call it impact axis from now on. And then we also have the what's the other one? Efforts. Okay, if at any point you don't understand what I'm doing, please just call my attention to it. So this is what our prioritization grid looks like. You have the y-axis that says impact, and then the x-axis that says efforts. So this particular line, let me try and select just that one. This impact axis, it's increasing from up to down. I'm pretty sure there's nobody here that go through either economics where you were doing supply versus demand graphs and all, or chemistry or physics where you had to draw graphs and plot graphs for either titration or speed, velocity, and all those things. So what I'm doing is not completely strange. It cannot be completely strange. So you know that this is the starting point of a graph or a grid. It's here is 0. Let me label that just so you're clear. Here is 0, meaning that at this point, mathematics too. God bless you, T-Ben. How did I forget mathematics? Of course, I'll forget it. It was traumatizing. So at this point is 0. And at this point, you have maximum effort, actually. So this particular line at the bottom is talking about effort. So anything within this space would have minimal effort. Anything within this space would have maximal effort. I will explain what effort means and what impact means. So on this particular part, on this on the horizontal part, anything within these 2 grids would have minimal impact. Anything up here will have maximal impact, because impact is increasing from here upwards, and effort is increasing from here sidewards. That is pretty much what this grid does. If you guys understand all I've said so far, all the mathematics and economics and physics and chemistry, please just drop a message on the chat box saying you understand, saying I understand. for somebody to come and say you understand. Thank you with Gab. So if you don't understand, thank you, Soji. I don't understand. Okay. So Soji, what I'm saying, and for any other person that doesn't understand, is this is a grid. This is a matrix. This is a graph. You have, in fact, let me find a way to color all these guys to make it easier. So I'm bringing in a rectangle here. I'm giving it a color of yellow. Let me reduce the opacity so you can still see what I put in there. And then duplicating that box, and you give it a color of blue, still with the same reduced opacity. And then another color just for contrast. And then the last one is this color. So you can see now that we have 4 boxes. We have 4 boxes. They are all inside the 2 lines that I drew earlier. The cross, this cross that I put here, let me change the color of that cross so you can still see it. So that cross is just to demarcate all of these quadrants. The quadrants or squares, when I say quadrant, just now I'm talking about square. The squares are just to show you that these are different areas. So what I'm saying is, on this particular left side, on this vertical line, you have impact. And then here is supposed to be 0. This 0, ideally, you don't put it in the grid. I'm just using it to illustrate. But what the grid contains is all of this except for the 0. So you have impact from 0 upwards. So it means that at this stage, let me draw a rectangle. It means that if we have something just like your normal graph, if you have inside here, you know that at the half mark is 50. Let's say the maximum is 100. Let's say this is the half mark. It means that what you have here is 50. So if I have anything at this point of the graph, it is in between 0 and 50. It means that it is 25. If I have another one here, it is 50. If I have another one here, it is 75. You understand? On the impact axis, on the vertical axis is it is either 25, 50, 75. So what it means is that if it is 25, it means it has low impact. If it is 50 here, this box, it means it has medium impact or average impact. But if it is up here, it has high impact. So mainly we're looking at low and high impact. I'm not looking at anything in the middle. High impact, low impact. That's for this axis. So now let's remember that it is still on the same point on this y-axis. Now let's look at the x-axis, which talks about efforts. This box here, the 2 boxes actually, they are sitting on the same points. This and this, they are sitting on the same points, which is here on this effort axis, and they are both on the low side. If I duplicate both of them and put them here, let me change the color to this or white. Yellow is fine. So if I change this color, now, I don't know how R got inside there. So now this yellow box here, this one I highlighted, it is still on low impact, but it is on high efforts. Low impact, high efforts. But this black box I'm clicking on is still on low impact, but low efforts. I hope that is clear. We're actually going to put things in here to help you understand better. But let me delete all these guys. I believe that is clear now, but don't worry, the more I explain, So we don't waste too much time on that. The more you will understand. So we have our grid now. This is what the prioritization grid looks like. And these colors I put here are just to help you understand, to help you see the different grids, the different quadrants. So we start taking our ideas one by one. These are our ideas. Remember, these two are the pain points, and then these ones are the ideas. Let me make them bigger. So you can see that when using Miro brings up tips for you to use, and it makes the whole what's it called? It makes the whole process of using it easier. You can quickly go there and see how to use the particular tool and all of that. It makes the whole process faster for you. So I just want to enlarge these guys. I should be able to do all of this at once. Yeah. So I'm scaling it up so you can see it easily. So let's start with this one. Let's start with restart app. No, this particular restart app is solving which particular problem? Let's go back and look at it. So these are our two problems. Let me put them up here. Frustrated when the app, let's start with the first one. Frustrated when the app's navigation is unclear. So this particular user, which is Annie, don't forget, she's frustrated when the app's navigation is unclear. So somebody give us an idea. So just says he understands now. Good. Someone give us an idea that to solve this particular problem, it is to restart the app. Okay, we already said every idea is welcome. So we're not discarding any idea. We're going to use the prioritization grid to filter out ideas. So before I go ahead, let me label each of my grids so it helps you understand even better. So I want you guys to actually do this with me. I need 4 people to raise up their hands, and we're going to label these grids together. And I want Soji to be part of those 4 people, so I'm sure he understands. So raise up your hand, and I pick you one by one. You then tell me what name we're going to call each quadrant. So please go ahead and raise up your hand. I'm waiting for you. Soji, you should be the first person whose hand is up. Hello, are you guys there? Can you hear me? Okay, so this hand is up. I'm waiting for 3 more people. You guys don't be afraid, though. This is the best way for you to actually learn. So I'm waiting for more people. One more person. Tiben is asking for Miro. Is it just for the mapping it's used for, or is there other things it's used for? Yeah, Miro can be used for so many different things. We'll get to that shortly. But we're teaching you, we're showing you how to use it for these things we're teaching you: prioritization grid, empathy mapping. Figma also has a whiteboard too. I still need one more person to raise their hand. Figma has a whiteboard tool called FigJam. So in your Figma board, you can go to the home and then click on, instead of clicking on design file, click on FigJam board. Remember, you clicked on design file. That was what you clicked on when you wanted to start your design for that social media design. But if you want to use the whiteboard tool, you click on new FigJam file. So this is what it looks like. See, it's not so much different from what you have in Miro. Actually, I should have used this for you today because Favor already taught you Miro last week. Anyway, let's go ahead. I need one more person to raise their hand up. I'll call somebody shortly. But while we're waiting, Linda, I want you to go first. So what I want you to do is to label this pink box. Just like I explained earlier, I said the horizontal, the impact grid is here, the vertical, and the horizontal is efforts. Remember that. So this pink box that you can see, it's up here. It's up closer to impact and closer to 0 when it comes to efforts. So what exactly are we going to name it? Is it going to be high impact, low effort, or low impact, low effort, or what exactly? That is pretty much what I'm asking.
Sorry, is it the pink or the yellow?
The yellow, sir.
Okay, the yellow is high impact and low effort.
Can you say that again?
High impact, low effort.
High impact, low effort. Thank you very much. So Linda is actually right. High impact, low effort. That's what we have here. So right after that, Babatunde, please go ahead. What do we have here? Sibian, you can put your hand down. You've spoken before. Thank you very much, though. So Babatunde, what are we going to have here on this pink box, this pink square or quadrant? I can't hear you.
It will low impact, low effort.
God bless you very much for that. Low impact, low effort. So, Soji, I want you to go next now. What do we have in this turquoise, I believe, quadrant?
Yeah, high impact and high effort.
God bless you very much. Now I know that you understand it. High impact, high effort. So the last person we have here is Kane D. Kane D raised his hand before Joshua. So Kane D, what do we have here? In this one at the bottom. So you said this one is high impact, high effort, Abi?
So that one we have low impact, high effort.
All right, you guys are very smart. You understand this stuff. Low impact, high efforts. All right, so now that that is clear, we now know we've labeled each of our quadrants. So what we're going to do next is I can remove this 50, I can remove this 0 because they are not needed. It was just for illustration. So what we're going to do next is to arrange our ideas, starting with this. So the rest of you that didn't speak up, you can raise up your hands now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 features, 6 ideas here. So what we're going to do is arrange them and put them in the appropriate quadrants. So I want you guys to raise up your hand and let me know. All this is actually subjective. It's actually subjective because it will be actually be based on the what's it called, on the purpose of the app that you're creating. But I still want to hear you, since this particular app is all we've been using from start. So let's go ahead. I want to hear you. Raise up your hands, and if you want to speak, let us put these ideas into the appropriate quadrants. No hands are raised. What is going on? I want to hear new voices. Those of you that have not been speaking, I don't want to have to call you, but I want to hear your voices. Let me be sure I'm speaking with human beings. All right, guys, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, one person has raised their hand. I'm waiting for more hands. Raise up your hand. So look, please go ahead. So we're starting with this very first feature that says restart app. Let me change the color of this guy so it doesn't conflict. Okay. So this very first feature that says restart app. So look, I'm listening to you. This very first idea, rather.
Yeah, to have a low impact and low effort.
Low impact and low effort. So can you tell me why you said that?
Because the person said he cannot easily navigate the app. So restarting the app doesn't mean you'll be able to still get it, even though he doesn't understand it.
Okay, thank you very much. I like that. Thank you. I'm still waiting for more hands to be up. So one thing I forgot to explain to you, one thing I didn't remember to explain to you is what impact means and what effort means. So impact means what impact will it have in terms of meeting the user need or in terms of solving the user problem. And efforts means that how much effort would we have to put, we being the people in charge of developing these ideas, people in charge of the products, the app, how much effort would it take to solve that problem or to meet that need? Let me give you an example. Earlier we spoke about having a car that runs by electricity. So if we're brainstorming and somebody comes up with the idea and says, why don't we, or let's say the user problem was, the user said, I don't want to have cars. I don't want to have a car that runs on petrol. So when brainstorming, an idea that might come up might be, why don't we have cars that run on electricity? So that's an idea generated from a pinpoint. We brainstormed and generated an idea that says, why don't we have a car that runs on electricity? So when putting it into the prioritization grid, you now start to think, okay, a car that runs on electricity. You start to think about the impact. How much impact would that make towards the pinpoint? The pinpoint was, I don't want a car that runs on petrol. So you can see that the impact is high because it's actually meeting the user needs. If the idea that came up was like, if the idea was, why don't I, instead of saying, why don't we use cars that run on electricity, you say, why don't we use cars that run on kerosene? So it's still petroleum. It's not petrol, but it's still a petroleum product. So the impact is not really there. It's low impact because the user will still have the same problem. You will still have to spend money on this petroleum product. It is still flammable. You understand the things I'm saying? So the impact, if you say, let us have a car that runs on, that's too long. Let's just call that idea electric cars. So if you have electric cars, it's obviously high impact. So let me use that, for example, to illustrate electric cars. So it's obviously high impact. So let me put it here first, high impact. So in terms of the efforts, how much effort will it take the engineers, the manufacturing team to come up with electric cars? It is definitely not low efforts. It is high efforts. So you put it under high impact, high efforts. That is simply how the prioritization grid works. Do you all understand? I want to get feedback. Either in the chat box or here. All right, thank you. Understood. All right then. So just like the very Oluwatosin, I believe, or Tolulope that spoke earlier, he said low impact, low effort. So that was why I didn't want to add this feature before, but as we said, all ideas are welcome because restarting the app is actually what the user is going to do. That's not an idea for a feature. You are giving the user ideas on what to do. What we're doing here, remember that in the process of creating the app is not yet in existence. Sometimes you might use prioritization grid to make a currently existing app better, but for the context of this empathy map and prioritization grid, the app we're looking at is not yet in existence. So you cannot say restart the app. You cannot restart what is not existing. But let us still leave it here. So the next feature we have here is use of icon. So Ayodeji, can you go ahead and tell us where to place this use of icon? So I believe what this person was saying by use of icon is to remember that the problem we're solving here, the problem here is frustrated. The user is frustrated when the app's navigation is unclear. So somebody came up with an idea to use icons. So we're in the prioritization grid with this feature. Will this idea fall under DJ?
Well, I think it will be under high impact, low effort.
All right then. Thank you very much. I also agree with that. To be under high impact, low effort. And why is that? It's because it is easy to design icons. It is easy to implement icons. It doesn't take anything from anybody, from any part of the team. And icons are an easy way to illustrate what is happening instead of using text and lots of description, content, and all. Just one icon. They say a picture. How do they say that thing? A picture is worth more than 1,000 words or something like that. So an icon is also a picture because it's a graphic element. So an icon shows you a whole lot as compared to using text. So the next point we have here is make the nav bar clearer by using a more effective color for it. So where's the person whose hand was raised up just now? He has disappeared. All right, Yinka, please go ahead.
So I actually think the answer to that one is high impact, low effort.
High impact, low effort. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I agree with you too. Make the nav bar clearer by using a more effective color. So just like using icons, using a more effective color, is also straightforward. It doesn't take you anything, and doesn't take the developers anything. Doesn't take anybody anything. So high impact, low effort. So any other person? Me Becca, I believe. Where do we introduce this? Make the process clearer. So this particular idea is solving the problem of make the nav bar clearer by using a more effective color for it. What's going on? This is duplicated. Oh, okay. No, that's not the pain point. So I mixed it up somewhere. Oh yeah, this is the second one. I've mixed up something somewhere. So this was our second pain point. Needs to pay bills on time, but the process is confusing. Okay, yes. So the ideas you guys gave me was actually for this. I think I changed that text somewhere along the way, but that's corrected. So this particular pain point says, this particular idea says, make the process clearer. Because the pain point is saying, I need to pay bills on time, but the process is very confusing. So someone gave us an idea and said, make the process clearer by putting an icon of pay bills at the first page. So me Becca, where do we put this under?
Yeah,
I'm listening to you.
I think it falls on the high impact, low effort.
Okay, just like the use of icons there earlier too. I agree with you. So who else is there? Any other person? May have a step-by-step guide on how to troubleshoot when the app is slow. So who wants to help us answer this? Kennedy, I'm listening to you. Tobloko, you can still keep your hand raised. I would call you after. Kennedy, I'm listening to you.
Okay. Is it introducing a chatbot that I'm answering to, or which one?
Yes. No. This one.
Okay. Come on. Okay. I think it's gonna be on the high impact, then high effort.
Okay. High impact, high effort. Any other person want to add to that? I have a step-by-step guide on, thank you, Kendi. I have a step-by-step guide on how to troubleshoot when the app is slow. Tiben, I'm listening to you.
Okay, it should be there because of the process that will take to develop by the designers.
Okay, that's the high effort, right? Since it's a step-by-step guide. Okay, I agree with you. All right, but then I disagree with you. I think this should be under low impact, high effort because we're talking about which pain point is it again? Needs to pay bills on time, but the process is confusing. Somebody gave, yeah. So when you look at this, these two are solving the same problem. So between this one and this one, which you can see, this one is saying make the process clearer by putting an icon of pay bills on the first page, on the home page. On the home page, I'm seeing that icon that says pay bills, just like your bank app. Imagine if on your bank app, you didn't have send, make transfer on the home page. And then the idea, and instead of having make transfer on the home page, what you have there is a step-by-step guide on how to make transfer. So you first have to go to support or FAQ on the app and read articles that will show you how to make transfer before you now find where the transfer button is. So it's actually high effort and low impact because it's not meeting the user need as swiftly and as efficiently as this very first point. So this particular one is under low impact. Even though the person is saying to troubleshoot when the app is slow. We're not quite talking about if the app is slow here, but let's leave that. So the very last one, introduce a chatbot. So who wants to answer that? I would really like for somebody who hasn't spoken before to speak up. If you've spoken before, still raise your hand. You will answer. This is an interesting one, actually. If you've not spoken before, this is your chance. All right, Ben Umo, I'm listening to you.
Okay, I think for the introducing a chat bot that should come into high impact and high effort.
I didn't hear you.
That should go into high impact and high effort.
High impact and high effort. Okay. Mibaka, I'm listening to you. Thank you, Ben Umo.
Okay, for introducing a chatbot, I think that should fall under low impact, high effort.
Okay, Mibaka says low impact, high effort. Let's put it there too. So, Ben Umo, you're the first person who spoke, right? Can you tell us your reason? Ben Umo and Mibaka, you guys will give your reasons. Why did you say
Okay,
high impact, high effort?
for a chat bot, I like if I should understand like how chatbot works, what it makes to build up a chatbot. We can see that either the developer or the AI will have to take in, like you have to put in much effort and then in programming and the rest of the thing. So it will
Okay,
actually take,
okay.
yes, high effort, and so that's it.
You spoke about the effort, you didn't speak about the impact.
Yeah, it will definitely be a high impact because it will actually help the user understand how to navigate the
Pay
app
bills on.
or
No, remember, but this particular feature is talking about this paying bills on time, not app navigation now. Paying bills on
okay.
time.
Yeah, I let's say the bot can help notify the person
Okay, all right then.
when it's
Thank you
time for
very
the bill
much.
payment.
All right, that's fantastic. How about you, Mibeka? I'm listening to you.
Okay, I think I would move from what I choose to high impact, low effort. Reasons being that just like the last person said, it's going to take
Say that
quite some
again.
work.
High impact, low effort.
High impact, low effort, yeah. So reasons being that creating a chatbot is
Wait,
going
wait,
to
wait. Before you said low impact, high effort
low
before.
impact, high
That was
effort,
why.
yeah.
Now you're saying high impact, low effort.
Yeah, I think I'll go with high impact, low effort.
Okay, so you're saying it should be here.
Yes.
Here. High impact, low effort.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I'm listening to you. Why is that?
Okay. So like I said, it's just like the last person talked about creating a chatbot is going to take some work to create that, the whole programming and everything. So I think for low, oh, I'm mixing it up.
You
I'm
have
actually
caught
mixing it
yourself
up.
now. So you are
So
saying high effort.
let me just explain. Let me just explain. Yeah, I'm saying high
Okay.
effort, then low impact. So low impact
Okay.
in the sense that the chatbot might not necessarily be able to relate with the person's problems because
Okay.
chatbot will give you quite a lot of options, but it might not necessarily hit the nail on the head.
Okay. All right then. I understand what you're saying. Thank you very much. That's great. Tiben and Kendi you would speak later. We're running out of time. So I agree more with Mibaka. And Benigumo, I like your reasoning actually, but all of this is actually quite creative. While working with the ideas we currently have. So in this particular context, I would introduce a chat box under low impact, high efforts. For the same reason why we put this here, because introducing a chatbot, great, yeah, fantastic. Just like an AI body that you can use. But then remember that you want to be able to pay your bills on time. It even says it there. Imagine that, for instance, now, for an example, you are watching Arsenal versus Chelsea, and your NEPA bills, your prepaid meter is about to run off, and you know that you have to subscribe as soon as possible before your lights goes off. And you're trying to log into your app and do all of this, but you are not seeing the option there immediately you open the app. of course, it's going to waste time. It's beating the purpose of the on time that you have there, because it's saying it needs to pay bill on time, but the process is confusing. You want it to be direct, straight to the point. The primary purpose of having your bank app is to make transfer, buy airtime, or just generalize it and say make payments, pay bills. So that's the primary purpose. You want it to be there on your homepage. So introducing a chat box is actually of low impact when compared to the other ones we have here. So in a case where you have so many other ideas, you might have ideas like introducing a customer support rep or something. There might be some other things there that when you look at it, besides introducing a chat box, it might not push introducing a chat box to high impact, high efforts. But as compared to what we have here, when you compare them amongst themselves, because this is what we have there. That's why we said when it comes to ideas, we're looking at quantity over quality. We want as many as possible so we can leverage upon each of them and go for the best ideas using the grid to prioritize ideas. So what we have here, we're going to stick with, because of course, introducing a chatbot requires a whole lot of programming. So it's a whole lot of effort for low impact as compared to the points that we're trying to solve, the pain points that we're trying to solve. So now that we've managed to categorize all our, is that clear? Is all I explained so far clear? I want you guys to drop messages on the chat box. Yeah, I can see some people answering that question on the channel. That's good. Okay, said it's clear. So now that we have all our ideas here, this is pretty much how the prioritization grid works. So when you have your prioritization grid, you actually want to focus on these top parts. You want to focus on ideas that have high impact and low efforts. You want to focus on ideas that have high impact and high efforts. Let me go back to our slide so you can see that. So you can see that the ideas that have low impact and high effort, you can see that they're in red. That means danger. It's a no-go area. Don't even near there. Because why would you want to spend time and money on an idea that will take you, by high effort, it means that it will take you a whole lot of time, a whole lot of resources and money. And then the impact it is giving you is hardly even meeting the user need. So remember that I said that this prioritization grid is a filter. You use the filter and prioritize your ideas. So once you have ideas in this quadrant, the lower right quadrant, which is this our quadrant, you don't want to go there. You're avoiding that quadrant altogether. And then after that, you now have orange, which is like, okay, it's safe in between, which is the low impact, low effort. The effort is not much, but the impact is not much either. So it's just in between. And then you now have high impact, high effort. The effort is high, but the reward is also high. But ultimately, you would agree with me that you would rather go for features that have high impact and low effort. If let's make it more practical. If who do we have here? We have Yinka and Ken Joshua. If Yinka and Ken Joshua, maybe Nanive is a client and she has a website she wants to design. And she goes to meet Yinka and she goes to meet Joseph to design the website. And she has seen their portfolio, she has seen what they can do. They are pretty much on the same level. But then Yinka, as a Yoruba man, says he's going to collect 400,000 naira to design the whole website for her. And then Joseph says he's going to do the same work for her, but she should pay him 250,000 naira. As a logical person, if you were naive, who would you go for? And you know that both of them are going to give you the same quality of work and deliver it in the same time. You know that you will go for Joseph. You will fashion Yinka. Yinka will just be on his own. So that's what it means here. You want to focus on ideas that have low effort. It don't take you so much energy, so much time, so much money, but it will have impact. It will really hit the user needs. And then you now go on to high impact, high efforts. Then the third priority is low impact, low effort, and then the bottom is low impact. You want to avoid this completely. So there might be times when you might want to favor high impact, high effort rather than high impact, low effort, especially when the impact of, let me use the, okay, we don't have any here. if you have a feature here that the impact is greater, like because okay, let me use that same example. If Nanive says either Joseph or Yinka, and then we now bring in a person in that kind of scenario, we will place Yinka. Let's say this is Yinka. We'll place Yinka. Yinka is the one charging more, so high effort and high impact. And then Joseph is the one charging less, so Joseph is low effort because it is in this context it is less spending. So place Joseph here. Place Joseph here. So if we now have a third person, let's say Benny Umo. Let me put him in the middle first. Let's say Benny. If Benny now comes and says he's going to do it for 400,000 naira, but he will do it faster than Yinka. Remember that Yinka also said 400k. Joseph said 250. That's why Joseph is under high impact, low effort, low money. But Benny is doing it higher than Joseph. Remember that Nanive had already gone with Joseph. But now Benny comes and says Benny will do it for 400k, the same price that Yinka said. But now he's doing it at half the time. Benny Umo still falls under high impact. What's it called? High impact, high efforts. Because the money is high, the impact is high. But now the priority is different. Benny has more impact than Yinka because he's gonna do it at a lesser time. So it really makes sense for you to just put Benny up here, put Yinka up here. Let Yinka be closer to this left side, let Benny be closer to the upper part, just for you to know that there is a difference. So Benny has a higher, Benny is more favorable to Nanive in this case because he's going to, of course, we're assuming that Nanive doesn't mind. She's a rich person. So even if the only reason why she went for Joseph earlier was because Yinka and Joseph were going to give her the same thing for the same. Yinka and Joseph said they are going to do it in 2 weeks. But Joseph said he was going to do it at a cheaper price. They were giving her the same quality, but different price. So money wasn't the issue for Nanive. But now Benny now comes and says he's going to do it at less the time, but at the same amount as Yinka. So naturally, she's going to go for Benny. So do you guys understand the illustration I just gave? So to make you understand that even within a particular quadrant, you might still have varying efforts, varying impacts. So it's always best to go for ideas. I'm still talking about ideas that seem to meet the user needs best. You see why you can't like that. All right. So the next slide, I almost forgot we even had a slide here. Okay. So the steps that you have in prioritizing your idea. Remember that the very first step for generating ideas was to prepare. The next one was to actually go ahead and generate ideas. And then the third one is to prioritize ideas using prioritization grid. So now I'm talking about steps in prioritizing your idea. Prepare your board. Identify key actors represented in your ideas and create a frame for each of them. Move your ideas into each frame as they relate respectively. Create a prioritization grid for each actor. So I should have explained this to you before at the end of the class already, before all of that explanation, but I got carried away. So what we mean by actor? The actor we're saying here now is not actor, film actor, or actor and booze. We're talking about, when we say actors, we're talking about the different categories of users of your app. So in this particular picture, in this next slide, this is the organized notes that was generated for an app, for a food ordering app. So in the food ordering app, how the app works, some of you might not know this because you just order on Jumia food and your own is that the food should just get to you. But the app, for instance, has 3 different user interfaces or 3 different actors or 3 different user categories. First, you have the restaurant interface, which is, okay, let's start with the customer actually, because that's you. You are the customer. you want to, Kehinde wants to order chicken and chips from KFC using Jumia Foods. So he opens his Jumia Food app on his own phone. What he sees is the customer UI. He is an actor. He's a user category. He's the first user. So after he makes his order, there is somebody at the restaurant who is going to receive his order using their own app, using their own UI. In fact, I'm actually going too far. Let me come down to the level of our, what's it called? Our elements. So Kehinde wants to submit his task. He just did task 2 and he has submitted. You know how your interface looks like. It's different from how our own looks like as a mentor. So let me just give you guys a brief peek into what that looks like. You all are already familiar. It was only one person on this call that said she hasn't signed up on the LMS. Please, after this class, I think that was, I don't remember your name, but please come remind me that I'm supposed to show you where the link to sign in is. So you guys would know that this is pretty much how yours looks like. And it's good user design, UX design will tell you that this is what consistency is all about. We are following a particular design system. We'll teach you more about design systems later on. But it makes sense for your designs to be for the interfaces to be similar. Can anybody tell me the difference between this and your own UI? Anybody?
Yours is showing active students, the active students.
Any other thing or any other person?
Recent submission.
There's no
Recent
tags.
submission. Okay. This is task here. Okay, you mean here, in place of task, we have recent submission. Okay. Any other person?
Then yours has a view all button.
View all button. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So one of the things I mentioned earlier, user needs can vary. I'm a user. You are a user. But we are two different types of users of this LMS. You are a student. I'm a trainer. You can see that mine says trainer ID here. Yours says student ID. So you as a student, your primary goal when coming on this LMS is to view your task and submit your task. That's why on your homepage, once you click on dashboard, you can see here task. You can click on your task and go and submit it straight up. But I, as a trainer, I'm not doing any task. So my own primary goal here is to view your task submission and grade it. So if I had submissions that are not graded, they would show here and I'll click on them and it will show. It's taking me there immediately. So this is good user experience. We are giving the users the information they need when they need it and as soon as possible. So another difference here is that on this nav bar menu here, that's what we call it, nav bar or side menu, whatever. You notice that I have a different tab for students. Yours doesn't have that. Yours doesn't have that, but I have a different tab for students where I can go and see all students that are UI UX beginner. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to explain here. These are where you have restaurants, customer, admin. We also have an admin. Admin also has their own different. Theirs looks is the same look, the same color, the same arrangement, but the functions are different. The way I have students, I can see all list of students. I can't see all list of trainers. Admin is the overall head. Admin can see all list of trainers. So the user needs would vary depending on the category of user. So these categories of users are what we call actors, which is what we just looked at here. Identify key actors represented in your ideas and create a frame for each of them. So coming back to our app here, before we started doing the prioritization grid, we ought to have done this where we list out all ideas. Let me get all these ideas again. So we list out all our ideas and start to identify the actors. By actors, I mean who is responsible for what in this case. Just like in the LMS, we know that if you ask who is responsible for what, the what is grading of task. Who is responsible for grading of task? Trainer. Who is responsible for submission of task? Students. You understand? So now, if we're saying an idea to meet a user need or solve a user pain point is to make the nav bar clearer by using a more effective color for it. So of course, this is the job of the designer, but this particular idea, who will it help? Who will it help? You guys can drop your answers in the chat box. This particular idea, who will it help? It will help, that will help you identify who the actor of this particular what's it called? Idea is. We have another one. Okay, so for instance now, okay, the ideas we generated here, they're not really much to go with, but let me use the ones that we have here. I believe you can see this screen. Let's try. Yeah, so this particular guy here, let's see, try and zoom this. So what we have here, we've already divided the different actors. We have restaurants, customers, and admin. Those are the the actors might vary. You might have a particular app that has up to 5 actors. For instance, a school management system, a software that used to manage um, the official duties of a school. It can have as much as 5 to 6. I remember there's a particular client I designed such for. They had more than 6 actors. One actor was a student, another actor were parents. Parents had a different login, just like students and trainers. You also had trainers login, which are teachers. Teachers could log in. You had a login. You had an actor that was, what's it called? Stakeholders, different stakeholders like school owners and all of that. You also had principal. Principal had their own separate login, and then you had admin. Even after admin, you had super admin, because all of these, they have different levels of access and different level of features available to them. I hope you understand. So someone said the user and the designer. In this case, the designer is not an actor. The designer is, in quotes, at the back end. You're the one designing everything. The actors are simply the users. Your designer, you as the designer, you're not the user of the app. Sometimes you might be the designer. For instance, if I'm designing WhatsApp, I'm the one that designed WhatsApp, and I end up being a user of the app. But that's not what we're talking about here. But we don't count the designer, because the designer can be anything. But your actual users are people that you identified during your, what's it called, empathize stage. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So in this particular, this one has been structured to make you understand it easily. You have a food ordering app. In the food ordering app, like I was explaining, you have the customer, which is you're the one ordering the food, the restaurant, which is KFC, and then the admin, which is there to do administrative things. So you arrange your ideas, because by the time because you're going to have to do a task on this eventually, where your research, the research you did on the task you did for that research, you're going to generate your ideas and all of that. But don't worry about that now. When the time comes to do that task, we'll let you know. We're just letting you understand how all of this works, which is what I was talking about here. So once you identify your actors, you move your ideas into each frame as it relates respectively. For instance, there might be an idea that says, like we said earlier, put icons there to help to order food quickly. That will help the customer. You put it under this box, inside this box for customer. And then you might have an idea that says, have a timestamp feature to help to know when orders come in. That kind of idea will fall under restaurants and admin. Yes, I just can be repeated, because the restaurant will need to see what time you made your order. Another idea for customer will be to see the time that his food is actually going to get to him. So different ideas are solving different user pain points. Because remember from the start, we already explained to you that you have different user categories. You have different actors. So your ideas, some ideas are peculiar to specific users. Some of them, you might have one idea that might cut across all of your users. So that's pretty much it. We're going to share the slide with you as usual, so you can read further on all of these things. So I would like to know, I really apologize that today's class extended way longer than intended. I think it was 17 minutes over. Actually, we didn't start by 2 on the dot. So do you guys have any question, please? You can ask your questions now if there's any part of the class that you're unclear about. Are you guys still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right then. Kendi, you can go ahead and ask your question.
All right. My question is in the later part of the class. When you're talking about generating ideas that cut across different users. In generating those ideas, does it mean that probably we have multiple screens for multiple users, or we can just decide to the ideas to be probably on a particular screen, or
Can you
how is
say
it going
that
to
again?
be?
I don't understand.
I mean, why generating ideas for different users? For example, the food app you cited as an example. Does it mean that the admin will not be able to have access to the customer part of the function of the app, or they also can have access to it, or it's just going to be a different screen for different user and the likes?
To understand, but if I understand it correctly, actually, the admin usually has access to pretty much everything. The admin can, because that's the admin. And as I said, there are some ideas. Remember that the ideas you are generating would lead into features that the app would have. Once you brainstorm and come up with ideas and you prioritize them, the high priority, high impact, high effort, high impact, low effort ideas will be translated into features. You'd, if for instance now we had an idea that we said there was one like that. Okay, how have a step-by-step guide on how to troubleshoot. So you have a troubleshoot feature or a chatbot that helps customer support and all those kind of things. If you become a feature on the app. So, but for you, for the sake of this particular task, for the sake of this particular class, what you need to understand is that you are just categorizing all of the ideas that you came up with based on the user category that they fall under. Sometimes you might the restaurant customers and admin that you have here are the different actors. They are the different user categories. Sometimes you might have identified these actors in your enterprise stage. That's in your research stage, you might have identified. Other times you might get that from your product requirement documents. That is the documents that the project manager is going to give to you to work with, because we are still going to learn on how to collaborate with other people. You will learn about that. So sometimes they might have helped you identify, they might have said, okay, these are the clients, these are the users who are reaching out to. These are the users we want to design for. We want to solve their problems. So other times might be left to you. So you might identify them in your research stage or identify them in your ideate stage here. And one way to identify them in this stage here is also to use this method by when you come up with your ideas, you categorize them into different boxes. Because this one is already labeled, so it's like Expo. But once you have your ideas, you might start to see similarity between some ideas and group them. Once you group them, you'll be able to title that, okay, this idea is for this category of user. This idea is for children of less than 12-year-old, for instance, in an e-commerce app. You will know that, okay, this set of ideas, they are meeting needs of users below 12. This set of ideas are meeting needs of users or specifically men above 60. So once you categorize all those ideas, it will help you identify your actors. So it can come in this stage, it can come in your research stage, it can be provided to you by your project manager. I'm talking about your different actors, different user categories now. So do you understand?
Yes,
Kendi?
thank you.
All right then. Tiben, I'm listening to you. Tiben, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay. My question is about the tools box you spoke about. You said body storming. Sorry, I said body brainstorming, and I remember Miss Favor said she spoke about body storming, something like that. Is there any other toolbox that we can use for the Ideate Stage?
Yes, there are actually a whole lot of them, but that's part of your task. You're actually going to research it. But the body storming that we mentioned then is not part of the Ideate Stage. It's actually part of the empathize stage, because body storming is different from brainstorming. Brainstorming is simply you are sitting down, you are thinking of ideas of how to solve user problems and meet user needs. But in body storming, it's in the empathize stage. You are being empathetic. You are putting yourself in the shoe of the user. And practically, what body storming can be is that, let's say, for instance, if we're designing an app, a ride-sharing app like Bolt, for instance, we want to design such an app and say, okay, one of the empathy tools we want to use is body storming. What we're going to do is in order to discover, remember that research, just as you have research, user research, you use user research to identify user pain points and user needs by asking them questions. Another tool you can use is body storming, whereby you actually put yourself in the shoe of your user. So in such an app, in such a ride-sharing app, what you want to do is put yourself in the shoe of your user. Where is the user going to be when the user wants to order the app? It might be at his house. He might be at the bus stop waiting for a car and he didn't see car. It might be at his place of work. So, well, of course, all these things, it depends on your budget before you can know if you can go this far. But people actually do it. UI UX designers actually do it. You and your team will go out and say, okay, you have different, you categorize yourself. Let's say there are three of us, me, Kende, and Tiben. So Tiben might be the driver. I might be the admin, and then Kende might be the user. The person wants to order the app. So Kende will go ahead and order the app out there on the field. He's ordering the app and all. And then me as the driver, I'm also looking at you know that these drivers too have their own app. For those of you that have seen how the interface of the driver looks like on both, you know that it's different from yours, quite different. Not the design now, but the functions. So I'm also using mine and seeing how to accept requests and all of that. So when we it's like role playing. Yeah, I remember she spoke about role playing. So you put yourself out there and then you get insights and all. You're actually going to see more problems than that you get from as compared to user research. So you take all those insights and go back to your office or whatever and look for how to build on those ideas and solve those problems. So brainstorming is just a separate tool, and that's under the empathize stage. Some people also improvise and use brainstorming to generate ideas. Yes, it's possible. But primarily in brainstorming, in ideating, the number one tool you use is brainstorming. You can use how might we questions. So that's a different approach too. And there are so many others. There are actually so many others, but the most common is brainstorming. So you have to do now is not the time, but you can read up about it for now. But you still have to do it in your task. So check for more brainstorming, for more ideate tools. So any other question? Tiben, I believe it's you I'm answering.
Yes.
Your hand is still raised. Have I been able to answer your question?
And thank you for that. But I still have one more question, but it's not relating to the class.
Okay. Wonderful.
So pertaining the tax, the promotional tax, I don't know if is it possible for one to still continue receiving the class even though he is not yet promoted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Actually, you don't wait to be promoted. That's why if you were if you were not yet in stage 2 or stage 3, or most of you are still in stage 0 actually, but we didn't hide access to this class. You understand? You can still attend classes regardless of the stage you're in, but you have to get promoted in order to get to the final stage. Yeah. So, and
Okay,
just so
but
you know, all this, it doesn't just culminate in you getting what's it called, a a certificate. We're actually going to work on a project where you work in teams, and we're going to build a case study that you're going to add to your portfolio. For those of you that know, case studies are very, very vital. And working in a team, it gives you the advantage, especially when you're looking for jobs and all. So we're actually going to work on a project and before the end of the boot camp. So being promoted from stage, it's only those that make it to the required stage that would stay through to the project phase and to the end of the boot camp. So it's important that you still do your task, especially your promotional tasks. And then, but the classes are always there because there are even people that are not even on KodeCamp have access to the classes because they're there on YouTube for everybody to watch. Is that fine?
okay, thank you.
Tubin. All right
Yeah,
then.
thank you.
Tululope, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. I want to ask that in case like if for we that will pass the first like that we pass the stage 0 to the stage 1, like what if we like is there chances that if we don't pass a particular stage that we can redo it to get to the next stage, or we can still be retaking it till we get to the next stage? Or
Yeah.
okay.
Or what?
Or like there is just limited chances that we can use to just get to do it and all.
Well, ideally, there are supposed to be limited chances, but thank God that KodeCamp is very nice and
we are thankful for that too.
there's no limit to you don't fail.
Because
None of you
somebody
fail,
said
but
with the
there's no
law
limit.
already, formal law.
The only disadvantage is that you get left behind. If the rest of the class is in stage 3 or stage 4 and somebody is
That's
still
true.
battling with stage 1, it
If somebody
obviously
is serious with it, he can actually be fast with
yeah,
it.
but as long as, and this goes out to everybody, as long as you keep redoing your task, if you are serious with this thing, you should do the task maximum twice and pass. If you follow the recommendations and comments we drop, or the more you we'll keep reviewing and keep regrading and regrading and regrading because we actually want you to learn this thing and want it to stick. So it's actually better if you graduate, or rather if the bootcamp ends and you're in stage 2 and you understand everything from stage 0 to stage 2 perfectly, as compared to if you are doing magomago and doing ojoro and you get to stage 8. Actually, we would even know. There's no way you get certificates doing magomago. We will know. There are so many ways that we know that will catch you. So it's always better that you know this thing and know it for yourself. And whatever it is you're going to come out with, you come out with it. But we actually want everybody to get to the project phase and get certificates. But the
Okay.
simple answer to your question is there's no limits.
Okay, thank you.
All right then. Since there are no more questions, I guess we can call it a day. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming to the class. I hope you were able to learn one or two. And as usual, the recording will be made available on YouTube soon enough. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye, guys.